304 Studios in Jonesboro, Arkansas. This is STSPOD Club production. How's it going, Lance? I'm BT. How the hell are you, brother?
I'm over here in the Kit Kat Dark Chocolate Strawberry Studios in time for Valentine's Day. They don't miss a trick. So we're in the studios today, and we've got a foot of snow coming. So we got that to look forward to. With AEW Dynamite on Wednesday night. We're going to try to fight through the madness to get there.
We, right here on a Tuesday night, very unusual for us to go at this time. I've got a different schedule at my shoot job. That's what us insiders call it, shoot jobs.
Insiders, yeah, shoot jobs.
And then, so we're doing 8 o'clock, and hopefully it'll be on the main feed either by midnight tonight or early in the morning. This is Observing the Observer, but still, I do WTF. I always introduce you. So let me give you the introduction for tonight.
Take two
right here. This man right here will be with Eric Crow tomorrow night at AEW. He recently texted me to say that OJ did it. And he is from the home of the WNBA champion, Chicago Sky. He is the Snark of Excellence. My partner in crime, he is Lance LeVine.
Thank you very much. That's good. And I love the I'm going to have to get some Chicago Sky merch the way you keep on mentioning them with my intro. I'm going to have to. And the author of All the Right Notes on Amazon.com. Be sure to look for that.
That's an inside joke because neither one of us watch the NBA.
WNBA.
And we sure are not going to watch the WNBA. So what the hell? All right, man. Tell everybody what we're doing tonight.
OTO, baby. So this is our annual look at the Observing the Observer, the Hall of Fame edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. So I don't remember how many years we've done it now.
This is just our second year for me and you. Second. We started it out with Matt Farmer. He's from the Pacific Northeast.
Specifically.
Up there
Northwest.
with Don Owen. Up there, so that he did it first with me, and then all of a sudden, when you told the story last year, that all of a sudden you get the vote, so you're voting in the Hall of Fame, and so we decided it would just be me, you do it.
Insiders.
Insiders. That's for damn sure. Yeah.
So that brings up a good question because this was actually something I was going to ask you at the very end. Dave lists the categories of the voters, and I wanted to ask you, what are we? So the list are historians, reporters, active wrestlers, industry professionals, or retired wrestlers. So I think I know what we are, but what would you say?
I would say we're historians because we did kayfabe sheets. I think we become historians after we're the age of 50, or something like that. No, I think he always put me in historians, but I don't think he put me in historians at first, but I think he did after I got out of the newsletter.
I put us in as, I think, reporters. I thought reporters is the clear one.
Maybe, I don't know. Again,
like you said, we both did sheets. Now we're doing the podcast and everything,
Right.
So I think reporters is more accurate, but I guess historians could be too. Obviously, for you, active wrestler is close, retired wrestler per se. You did that one match with the clipboard.
I had 18 matches and I retired.
And then, so retired wrestler could match for you, but I guess toss up between reporters and historians. So either way, we're both in, we both vote. So, ours are bigger than everybody else's at this point. So, whatever. So we compare our notes to who we voted for, who we each voted for. And actually, you haven't told me who you voted for this time, nor have I told it to you. And we compare who we voted for to who actually got in the Observer Hall of Fame this year. So we are going to start with the biggest vote getter, one of the biggest ones of all time. Now, how do you say it? I know he's a handsome man. Is it Kazuchika Okada or is it Kazuchika Okada? Because I know you're partial.
Are you going to go ahead and tell who got in with the Wrestling Hall of Fame? I would go with the first pronunciation.
Kazuchika Okada. So, with a very high 92%. We knew he was going to get a real.
But strong, I call him Okada. That's what I call
him. Not Okada.
That is a handsome man.
That is a handsome man. You say it every episode. So, Okada got in. That was a no-brainer. Los Brazos got in from Mexico. Jim Crockett Jr. and Don Owen by a whopping 3 votes. He made it with a 3-vote margin of success. So those are the ones who actually got in this year, and we're going to comment on those at the end. But first, we're going to do who we voted on when we sent our ballots in. So Dave has all those rules of, you can vote for 10 of this and 6 of that and a half dozen of these and none of these, but 2 of these and carry the 3. So it's really complicated. But
it's really not that complicated because you can vote for 10 people. There you go.
Yeah, but next year it's going to be a real mess. But anyway, so the categories, we talked about this before we came on. The categories are historical, U.S. and Canada, Japan, Mexico, the rest of the world, and non-wrestlers. So those are the categories. So for historical, I guess we'll just go back and forth on.
All right, yeah, hold on just a second. Let me make sure that everybody knows that a few things. Number one, started in 1996, the Hall of Fame. So this is not something that he just started doing.
Right.
And it's always been I'm saying this after we said we do it, but it has been an elite group of people. It's not like he chooses everybody in the subscriber base to do it. It never has been. So I've always been honored to be part of it. Also, yes. I got something I need to say to Dave and to you and the listening audience. I believe if a wrestler used steroids, they should not be in the Hall of Fame.
There we go. So since Dave's Hall of Fame is based on the MLB Hall of Fame, you're using that same principle.
All right, forget who I voted
no Barry Bonds.
Yeah, it might have been everybody used. Maybe one. All right, go ahead. Historical. So go with your historical performers.
I honestly had no voter. I didn't vote anybody in for historical because honestly, I always talk about the way back in the day, I didn't watch any of that stuff. I started watching about roughly 1982 or so. I didn't watch anything before that. So to me, everybody from there forward, like your Ted DiBiase's and Sergeant Slaughters and the guys who were popular then are guys that I would vote for. That would be as far back as I would go. I can't say, oh yes, Stanislaus Zabisco, because that was big, and Toots Mondt. I'm sorry, I didn't pay attention to that. I got too much wrestling to watch today to go back and investigate any of that stuff. So I didn't vote for anybody historical. I mean, I have respect for like the Luthezes and everything in the world, but it wasn't something that I was watching. I wasn't aware.
All right, so you can pick 10.
Got?
Yeah, 5 of mine came out of here, so you can pick 10. I told you this last year. I always pick 10. I've always done it since day one. I always make sure I get the 10 in there. In pretty much the same reasons. We talked about some of the same people as last year that I voted for. Bob Armstrong, who, if you followed him in the Alabama territory, anytime around that, he was. And the more of the older stuff that you watch, he was the top baby face. He was the Jerry Lawler in that era, in that area. And Ric Flair came in. Ric Flair lost to him in a tag team match, so he gets a title match. A whole 9 yards with that. The fabulous ones, and then you can see a bunch of favorites here for me. Probably one of the top tag teams, or the top tag team in this area.
Were the Fabs were listed as historical? They weren't U.S.
Yep, they
modern?
were historical performers. I don't know. I didn't get that either. Yeah. Rocky Johnson, I voted for Rocky Johnson. He was he was one of the first, first black tag team world champions in the WWE. And also, he's the father of The Rock.
And didn't you see him at the Wingding store or something like that?
I did, Piggly Wiggly. And he also married a woman from my hometown. So there you go. Sputnik Monroe, I don't know if you know anything about Sputnik.
I do. The racial, the segregation.
I just think he belongs there by just saying, hey, I'm not wrestling here unless you let them sit in the front seat, front row also front seat. And I voted for the Junkyard Dog, and it was all because of Mid-South. You probably didn't vote for him or didn't see him until you got to WWE. But I think it was just he was just so popular and just such a big deal, made so much money during that Mid-South run that I become such a huge fan of his.
Yeah, no, I get that. And in fact, in the past, I have voted for Sputnik Monroe a couple years ago, and I just missed that he was still on the ballot, that he hadn't gotten in, because I do appreciate, like you said, the social aspects of what was associated with him. So, but yeah, JYD, like you said, I did not see. I remember reading about, the gigantic crowds in Louisiana and the Superdome and stuff with JYD before he got to WWF at the time. But I wasn't aware of that. That was, we didn't have the internet and we couldn't watch things on the network type of thing, So
Yeah,
I
you
wasn't
weren't a tape
very
trader.
much
See,
aware of
I
it.
was a tape trader,
Right.
so a tape trader got to see everything. When
Right.
it came to Japan, and I know you told me, look, I don't know, I didn't watch any of the historical stuff that you guys did, and we've even talked about watching some of the tag matches and stuff because you always ask me, do you think the old tag matches were as good as the new? And I always go, I'll text you back and say, some of that All Japan stuff, I mean, you have to go back. It's just one of those things where we're seeing real good quality wrestling right now. But, and I'm not that guy that says you can't have good matches now. It's just hard to beat some of that stuff for the drama and everything.
There's always the nostalgic looking back on that and the romanticizing how good it was.
So,
So,
and
but anyway.
I'm gonna correct something real quick because you said historical, and JYD. I'm just looking at the ballot again. JYD is actually in the modern performers, but the Fabs were in the historical. So,
and that's
I don't
weird.
know.
That almost feels like a typo or something to me.
Yeah,
because I actually saw the Fabs. The Fabs were big in the AWA.
Yeah, in AWA,
and
right?
They were up here. When I very first started going to wrestling here. Like I said, about 82 or so. And we were still seeing the tail end of the Crusher and the Baron von Raschke against the Road Warriors. That was like one of the most ridiculous things you'll ever see. These two old geezers, that were still, they were still selling tickets, but there's no way they should have been in the ring with the Road Warriors. It just was such a ridiculous, comparison. But the Fabs feuded with the Road Warriors up here too. I saw them many times at
and last year we made a note of this, but Ricky Morton was with us and we talked about the Fabs, and he said that he thought that the Fabs regretted going to the AWA because they got shit on so bad
by the Road Warriors. Yeah, and I didn't vote for the Fabs because entertaining, good hands type of thing, but just I don't know. It didn't.
So if you would have been,
it wasn't
here,
over the top. Yeah, it was probably different down there.
If you were in this area, it was kind of like the Dusty Rhodes and Jerry Lawler. They were the house, the places that Jerry Lawler did not want to wrestle. They would be the main event on those shows and draw just as much or more. So in the picture money, the whatever, the table money, just crazy.
I always thought that Stan Lane just really excelled once he went to the Midnight Express. I thought that I liked him from the Fabs, but I thought when he became part of the Midnight Express, that was just.
And I think that's what everybody remembers.
Better.
Yeah, he remembers. He actually, their style as the Fabs was a little different.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So should we move on to US/Canada for the modern?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, all right. So you want to go back and forth, or should I just do all my?
Just go ahead and do yours. I don't have that many in this category.
Okay, I had 4, and I had 8 altogether. So I know you said you used all 10. I had 8, right. So give me that. So all right. So my US/Canada. Actually, almost a repeat from last year. In fact, most of my ballot is a repeat from last year, plus the couple of people that became eligible this year. So my U.S. is Tully and Arn with J.J. Dillon. I have Edge. I have Matt and Jeff Hardy. So those 3 are all repeat votes from last year. And then my final one for U.S. is CM Punk. So Tully and Arn, I'm going to say, I get the fact that they're like prototypical good hands. If you look back on them now, they were basically good hands, but the feuds were so great. It was them with, the Road Warriors, Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, the Rockers, the War Games. They were in the War Games, which still to this day, one of my favorite matches of all time. I look back on them now, and in a sense, they were kind of jobbers. Arn and Tully were kind of jobbers back then in that role in the Horsemen, but they were so much more. So I picked them. Edge, I felt Edge was a master of numerous styles, plus comedy. On top of everything else, he did comedy as well as mastering all the various styles that he worked. His promos only got better as he got older. His percentage, which was interesting, his percentage fell. Last year, he had 44% vote, and then this year was only 32%. So I think in a way, the comeback actually kind of hurt him because I think some of those matches, like I know we disagreed on the Randy Orton, the last man standing or whatever it was.
Hey, you're not the only one disagreed.
I
think I was.
You were one of the only ones that liked it.
Yeah.
And I think that the comeback is kind of, in a way, has kind of hurt him. But I think he's one of the all-time greats. But he's kind of now in this WWE run, he's become just another guy. So I think his stuff with Rollins was really good. So I'm thinking maybe his percentage will go up again next year. Hardys, I still say the Hardys are pioneers in the, whatever you want to call it, the mud show wrestling or whatever Cornette calls it.
Don't ever say that. I'll beep that out.
The hardcore stunt show type matches. Those guys were the pioneers of it. So I think,
very much.
In a sense, I think Jeff Hardy's inconsistency has hurt them. He's here, he's not here, he's fired, he's rehired, he's back, wash, rinse, repeat, basically, with Jeff Hardy. I think maybe people are tired of the act. I don't know. They deserve to be in just based on their work rate. I think they're eventually going to be a lock to get in. I'm already sold on them. I think based on, the various runs they've had, I think they should get in. Maybe if Jeff does go to AEW, that'll help them. So, and then finally, Punk. I think Punk is actually the opposite of Edge. His percent rose from 15% voted in last year to 33% this year. I think his comeback has sold tickets. It's sold pay-per-views. Edge's did not. Bottom line, Edge is just another cog in the machine of WWE, whereas Punk was made into a bigger star and presented as a big star. Promos have been great. The matches have been improving. I didn't like that Darby Allin match, the first match, but I think he's gotten better since then. I think he'll be looked at fondly, and if this year is a strong year for him, I think he gets in automatically next year. So I'm already sold on Punk, but based on just the ROH run and the WWE run and now the short AEW run so far, but Punk's got to be in. No brainer that he gets in at some point.
I can't disagree with any of those, but I have a hard time, and we'll talk about a little bit more with Okada right now. And how I feel about this is that if you got somebody that's still wrestling, is not officially retired, and we laugh back and forth, wrestlers don't retire. It's hard for me to put them in. With the Major League Baseball, they have the 5-year rule. You have to be retired for 5 full seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I would take 5 years, and then if they're retired, I'd vote for them. So CM Punk was still gone. It might have been someone I would have voted for. Ed's still wrestling, Matt and Jeff's still wrestling. It's just not someone I'm going to vote for. And he actually made a mention of very few people with Okada not being on some people's ballots, and I think he wasn't on my ballot. So we're one of the few people, that I can't vote Okada
because
as a Hall of Fame
he's still
because
wrestling.
He is today. Yeah.
So, and I think Dave must have, and I don't remember if I read this with Dave or not, but I think he had to have gotten rid of that because, like you just said, they never retire.
Right. I know he had to have. I don't know why. I don't know when it happened, but in all the years that I've done it, I've never voted for somebody that's active. Something I never did. So
I mean, I get it, but so who did you vote for? Who were your U.S.?
Well, with the modern U.S., the only person I put in this category besides Junkyard Dog, who I had mixed up there, was Bill Dundee. And Dundee being such a big part of this, and also is a huge booker in Mid-South, and it also shows me growing up in this area and who I vote for. And, there was a few other people on that list that to me, Kamala is probably really underrated when it comes to modern, but I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for any of the new people. And, that whole list there of modern people, I still, I wonder why Sergeant Slaughter's not on the list. How's he never been voted? But I didn't vote for him this year, so I understand. All right.
I'm willing to defy you on the Bill Dundee 5-year rule. I guarantee you Bill Dundee has wrestled in the last 5 years. I promise you he has.
I'm probably wrong on that.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, how can you ever, what is he?
Lance,
he's got to be in his
Lance,
70s.
take a look at him. He's retired. He just goes in and
course.
Yeah.
But I'm just guaranteeing you, there's no way that guy hasn't wrestled a match. Probably this year already, he probably has.
No.
But there's no way it's been 5 years, dude. So, all right. So, do you want to move on to Japan, or are we taking a break?
Go ahead.
All right. So, Japan, I voted for Kota Ibushi. Shout out to Eric Kroll. He's a handsome man. I can't even say it. Tomohiro Ishii, and of course Okada, because you cannot not vote for Okada. You have to vote for Okada. I don't know how you can justify that. So for me, Ibushi is a lock. The dude busts his ass every time out. Guy never ages. This is not a criteria for the Hall of Fame, but he never ages. Handsome devil, I gotta say, Ibushi, handsome devil. Again, shout out to Eric Kroll. Incredible in the ring. Just had a rough 2021 between the pneumonia and the various injuries. But for me, the body of work is there. Again, I think eventually this guy is a lock, whether people are holding off on voting because I think Okada stole so many votes from the Japan category this year. but eventually Ibushi's a lock for sure. Ishii, for me, and we've talked about this many times, my New Japan MVP, and he has been for years. I love this guy. He may not have a neck, but he gets a Hall of Fame ring. If you ask me, he gets a Hall of Fame ring. Guy is indestructible. I think he'll be a rough vote. I cannot say that he's eventually going to be a lock because he lacks all the flash and all the charisma that a Tanahashi or an Okada or even a Ibushi has. You know, he does not have that. He's just a lunch pail guy that brings it every time. So he may not ever get in. He may not ever be the top guy. 100% respect on my part. And then finally, Okada, of course, to me, a no-brainer. I don't have the whole holdup of it has to be a retired guy. The New Japan run has just been amazing. And what I would need to know is, how did TNA drop the ball with Okada? I mean, what a blunder.
It's not what you can drop the ball. It was a whole different situation. This was a young boy. He wasn't a star then. That would be like
Okada,
saying yeah. It was like, why didn't they use Arn Anderson good in Mid-South? You know, he was a total different name, a total different
guy.
Yeah,
that's true.
You can't. You hear that a lot, and you hear that a lot with. How did they, not use the young
But
bucks?
the raw talent was there, so I mean, they could have done something differently. But anyway, so I say, it's fortunate that New Japan World came about when it did, because it got everybody into his prime. Like, his prime years has been documented on New Japan World, so we've been able to see most of his great matches. Gets him votes on the Hall of Fame thing for sure. And like I said, I mean, the main thing is that we've gotten to see Okada in his prime. So I voted for the three of them for Japan. I'm afraid to ask, who did you vote for?
Nobody.
No Japans.
No Japans. I sure
because. But
I save my votes for other stuff. Yeah, I use 5 up front, and then 6, 7. Yeah. I've only got a couple more here. So
okay, so the next category is Mexico.
I got 6. I got 2. I got 4 more. I think.
Okay, so you must have. They must be more non-wrestlers coming up then. So
yeah.
So Mexico, I didn't vote for anybody. I feel like I don't know the people that were listed. I don't know them well enough to say, yeah, sure, put him in. Most, like Dave had mentioned a bunch of times, most of the real big performers from back in the day of Mexico are already in. So
Psycho Clown's going to be somebody that, because he's headlined so many big events, he'll eventually be one of those guys, putting up his mask and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, nobody. And you're going to talk about how death puts you in the Hall of Fame sometimes. And I didn't vote for anyone here. No, not at all. So
okay, and then the rest of the world category, so like Zimbabwe and the Ukraine,
Well, I went with a little bit closer than that. Well, I don't know if it is.
So I did not. I had nobody from the rest of the world category.
That did surprise me. Yeah, there's a lot of guys on here you probably have never seen or even seen any video or whatever. I voted Adrian Street, who stole some stuff from Gorgeous George and become a huge star here in the Memphis area. And the reason I liked him so much is that he was flamboyantly a gay wrestler, and that's what he was. But when it got down to wrestling, it's like, he'd kick your ass, and he did the old European style,
like the grappling, technical stuff.
So punches, you knew he was going to win. Another guy who influenced so many people, me and you probably can't list them all, but Johnny Saint. Has actually worked for the WWE some, but if you go back and watch it, just type his name in YouTube and watch matches, and you'll go, oh, I know somebody does that kind of thing. It was a total different style. It was one of those, like you said, hold for hold, and then doing all kinds of, I call it flippity floppity. That was flippity floppity horse shit before flippity floppity horse shit was popular. And I've always been a Johnny Saint. And if you ever get into a rabbit hole of watching those matches, you'll just keep watching them over and over. And then when you watch modern wrestling, you'll just go, wait, what have I been watching? It's like watching a TV show all the time, a murder show, and then go to comedy. You're just like, wait, I need a break kind of thing.
I've seen that before. So like you said, very influential on other people that are around today. So, all right, and then the final category is the non-wrestlers. And again, same guy I voted for last year in this category. Only one. I voted for Mike Tenay. For me, a sentimental pick. Like, honestly, that's what some of the stuff you're saying makes me think it's sentimental picks because it's stuff that you grew up with and stuff. So for me, Mike Tenay, sentimental. Always a fan of WCW and TNA when he was there. I just think the most eloquent, great speaker, great communicator, just a very respectful to the product presentation. And whether he was with Don West or Taz, I just thought it was always the perfect call. He had the great chemistry with both of those guys. Predominantly, that's who I think of him working with. So I voted for Tenay as my only one as a non-wrestler.
I love Mike Tenay. I really did. My non-wrestler was Dave Brown because he was side by side with Lance Russell in my childhood. I really always liked Dave. And I went with Don Owen as my other non-wrestler. So I got lucky, I guess. I think that's in 2 years or 3 years. That's the first guy I've ever voted that actually is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So I think for me, it was Okada. I think that
right.
It
was.
First
yeah.
one who
Yeah.
got
That's 2 years. You didn't have anybody last year. Yeah.
So that to me, it was kind of a no-brainer. So and that was it on your non-wrestlers?
That was it. Yeah.
Okay.
That was 10 right there.
To talk about some of the people who actually got in, we have already covered Okada. I mean, to me, that was a no-brainer. Just the work ethic, the work rate, the presentation, the charisma, the character. Los Brazos, I didn't see enough of those guys to be able to say, oh, yeah, that's a no-brainer. They should be in for sure. What little I saw was comedy. It was all comedy. It was that Porky. It was the guy who passed away. They refer to him as Porky. So I don't get it. I mean, it probably was a huge act in Mexico that got over for many years. So, but I just didn't get it because I didn't see enough of it. And what little I did see was comedy. So Jim Crockett Jr., I think, remembered fondly because of the rise of NWA and becoming WCW. So I think, and his death last year brought, they call it recency bias because he recently died. So there was a fondness of him. And I think that brought votes. You know, it doesn't always work. And I'll talk about that. It doesn't always work, I guess, in a sense. I don't mean that, you know, in terms of, well, you die, you automatically go in the Hall of Fame. So it's not automatic, but with Jim Crockett Jr., it did. And then finally, Don Owen. I saw very little Portland wrestling, but I feel like this whole vote was let's throw Portland a bone because it survived so long award. It was like a participation award, I think. That's what it kind of felt like. What little I ever saw of the Portland TV show looked like it was basically stuff filmed in a bowling alley, which is what it was.
It's exactly what it was.
Yeah. There was props for longevity. I think that was what it was. It was 40-something years or however long it was on the air. But I think it got a lot of props for the longevity of staying on the air for so long. So that was a sentimental vote for Don Owen.
Yeah, I think it was huge in the sense that when you had the territories, it was considered one of the territories. It wasn't one of the main territories because no one got paid. They got paid less there than they did when they were in Memphis, but it was somewhere to go and they had a TV every week. So that was the main thing. There was some guys huge over. I mean, Popper was huge over in the area. You know, I bet you didn't know something about Portland wrestling. So Portland wrestling was well known as having some of the best rats in the business. And
wait, you cannot say that. It's 2020.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. No, but not only were they were good rats, and they were fans. They had really good fans. My bad. But these girls would actually pay for the guys to live with them in an apartment. They pay all their stuff, and they were their girlfriends. But then they'd go to another town and have another girlfriend who was paying. But they were well known that some of the guys stayed in Portland for an extended period of time because of the women.
So, do you think that had any bias?
They did. I think people voted for him.
People voted for Don Owen because of the rats in Portland. So they feel Don Owen was. So that almost makes him like a. Well, I don't want to a pimp.
No. Let's go. Yeah. I should. Right. Yeah.
There we go. So, all right. So, a couple of closing notes. Some other observations observations of the Observer Hall of Fame, if you will. So Randy Orton fell from 32% last year to 27% this year. Probably that terrible street fight at WrestleMania with Edge, I think. So I think that's why he got less votes. So the death theory that I talked about before, the death theory doesn't always get him in. Paul Orndorff is somebody who has all the credentials to be in, I think, and yet is not in, and he died last year or the year before, whenever it was. So Paul Orndorff dies fairly recently, and yet doesn't get in, doesn't help his vote total. So it's not always a lock that a death will get you in. So interesting that he didn't, because like I said, I feel like he does have a lot of the credentials to make it in. Not one of my all-time favorite guys, but
If you
very good.
Go back and watch it. He was a perfect opponent for Hulk Hogan. Also, drew big money. One of those guys that I talk about this sometimes, where you get people that you think can beat Hulk Hogan. I really always thought as a fan that in any situation, he could have beat Hogan. And I think that's why he was so over. And even though he was smaller and everything, he really was, everyone thought he was a tough ass and a good performer. Excellent.
And also there was that gigantic house in, was it Toronto, Montreal, somewhere up there, where they had like whatever it was, 75,000 or something for like a house show, basically, with Orndorff headlining with Hogan. So, I mean, just to draw that kind of crowd is amazing.
The thing I remember about Orndorff, though, was when he had hurt his arm. Do you remember that? I don't know why I always think of that. But then he came back, and it was his left or his right arm. It was so small. Yeah, it was just really weird.
So then we got Dave's formulas of who gets dropped, when they get re-added, and why. So my head hurts reading all this stuff. My head hurts because it's like, well, if they're in for 3 years and they don't get
Hold on. Let me put the Benny Hill theme song right here. No, go ahead.
So it just, I was like pounding the Advil when I'm reading, like, why is somebody going to get dropped? Why are they going to get added back in 2 years? They carry the 3 and then they get back on the ballot again. So what it reminded me of, and then Dave, after the week after the Hall of Fame issue, he goes back on about it again, about how we're going to add the historical, and next year there'll be only 5 eligible, but maybe there'll be 7 eligible, but then 2 years from now it'll be back to 5 eligible and then back to 10.
I didn't even read that. No.
My head was swimming. So what it reminded me of, my friend, is your formula on who you root for in the NFL playoffs if your Cowboys get eliminated. Because that, too, is the most ridiculous, convoluted argument.
It is, but it has to do with grudges. It doesn't have anything to do. The 49ers, I could never pull for the 49ers because of the toss, to Clark. I could just...
Who are you picking in the Super Bowl?
Who I pick is
based
always
on this convoluted formula that you and Dave have.
The first thing of the formula is I root for an NFC team because my team's from the NFC.
So it would be the Rams.
So the Rams are not included in the NFC that I hate. It's
everybody but the Rams. Okay.
It would have been the 49ers. It would have been anyone in our division. You can't pull for people in the same division. Or it would have been the Bucks if they win, because it's any team that Tom Brady's the quarterback on.
Why can it not be the Rams? I just need to know this.
No, it can, but that's the only people I'm going to pull for the Rams against the Chiefs.
Oh,
the Chiefs ain't going to be there.
The Chiefs aren't in it. Yeah, so
what? The Chiefs aren't in it?
This is breaking news. This just in.
Oh, my God. And just like you this week.
OTO has learned the Chiefs are not in. So, all right. So I just was so confused by Dave's formula. So all it could remind me of is your formula on the playoffs. But anyway, all right. So the next one is Mr. Wrestling 2 dies this year, but does not get in. Yeah. And Dave said it could be because people are remembering the sex assault charge that the case that he resurfaced.
Yeah,
that resurfaced in the obituary. Yeah. So that was really interesting. Another thing, Mystico gets 59.7%. And Dave says it cannot be rounded up. There is no way he's getting the 60, that he needed 60% to get in. So Mystico at 59.7 gets robbed. I don't know how you say robbed in Spanish, but Mystico gets robbed because you can't round that up.
I'm voting for him next year, no matter what. I'm voting for him next year.
That one, I know that one was one that Dave's mentioned a bunch of times, where his run as Sin Cara in WWE has really hurt him and pulled him.
It has because he was so good, and when he went there, it's almost like it just killed him.
Yeah. So, and that is my 4 a.m. essays look at the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame 2022. So those are my other miscellaneous notes. So what else do you have? You have other
That's it, man. That's all I had. I had just I put that every year on Facebook. You look at it and comment and go, what the? Everybody goes, yeah, thank you. It's so easy for us to follow kind of thing. But it's like always
the most complicated math formula. It's like carry the 3.
any of the teams in our division, I'm just doing this. You can't ever pull. The only year I pulled for the Giants against the Patriots because I didn't want Tom Brady to win. So, all right, we're gonna quit talking about football. We're gonna end it tonight. Thank you for joining us at 8:00 on a Tuesday.
Tuesday night.
It pushed me because of my shoot job. So same bad time. Oh wait. Let's tell them real quick.
What we
Friday, we go at 8:00 Friday night with What the Fuck Friday night. We'll do What the Fuck. We also do, what are we going to do? We spin the wheel.
And
so it's going to be fun on Friday night.
There will be prizes. There will be multiple prizes for multiple winners.
We have a runner-up surprise prize because one of our sponsors said, why don't you just do this for one of the prizes? We got some extra goodies, some extra booty, if you will. Not bootios. We have extra booty. Lowercase All right, guys. Same bad time, same bad channel on the best little wrestling podcast in the business. Be there. And as everyone knows, Lance is hungry. I love my mama. This is really late for supper for me, but I do have fun everywhere I go. And tomorrow night I'm going to Dynamite. If it kills me, I'm going to Dynamite with the 10 feet of snow that we're supposed to get in Chicago. I will be there. All right. Now I'm